Now, I'm delighted to have on the line with me Ciara O'Meara, who is an ambassador for MS Ireland, Multiple Sclerosis, of course, Ireland. And the MS Readathon is coming up. So that's really why we have Ciara on. So first of all, Ciara, you're very, very welcome to Connemara Community Radio.
Thanks very much, Marion. I'm delighted to be here with you this morning.
And of course, the MS Readathon, I just reading here, it's 36 years it's going now. So, I mean, some of the children who would have taken part in the first, early on are kind of well into their middle age by now.
Absolutely, Marion. I suppose the MS Readathon is Ireland's biggest fundraiser campaign, and Rodal started it all in 1988, and I'm in my prime age of my middle 30s, and I took part in the Readathon in primary school, and it was a big deal in the school. Like, it was the excitement of the posters and the new books coming and going round to your parents and friends and neighbours to get sponsorship for them. So it's really, it's such a fantastic initiative that has lasted the test of time, and I think is getting even more popular because MS Ireland have now opened it up to grown-ups. So we see now adults and sports clubs and workplaces and community groups are all signing up to the MS Readathon. We don't just associate it with the kids anymore. It's part and parcel for the adults now as well, which is fantastic.
Well, it certainly is, and as you say, it is the biggest fundraiser that MS Ireland do, the money is needed urgently for MS Ireland. I mean, does most of it go to research on this dreadful illness, or how is the money spent once you get it?
Yeah, so the funds in MS Ireland, they kind of stretch wide, Marion, and I suppose MS Ireland endeavour to put money and support into a number of areas. So the money that's raised, a certain portion will go into research. Some goes into the MS information line, which is the main helpline that people usually first contact when they're diagnosed or in the initial stages of their journey. And also the money goes into regional branches, the employment of regional community workers who offer one-on-one support for people in the community living with multiple sclerosis, and also goes into newly diagnosed sessions. We have a great online physiotherapy classes and programs, the Move Smart program. So all those kind of online yoga, any of those supports and services that MS Ireland offer, it's the MS Readathon that really is the backbone of fundraising for those.
Which really does explain how important it is that people would take part in this if they possibly can. And obviously it's all the schools, national and secondary schools, isn't it, who are traditionally the people. And now, as you say, lots of adult groups and so on are taking part as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really open wide now. It's not just associated with our primary school kids, it's secondary school, it's adults, it's community groups, sports clubs. It's really grown, which is fantastic to see.
Well, it is. And you're mentioning all those clubs and groups and so on. If somebody just wants to do it themselves, is there a way for them to do that too? I mean, to sponsor themselves, if you like, or to get friends to sponsor them, but just as an individual.
Yeah, Marion, so people can log on to the website, which is msreadathon.ie, and you can register as an individual to do it. You can register as a club. You could register with your family. You can register any way you like, but you can certainly do it on your own and get sponsorship from your friends, family, neighbours.
Right, or just do it yourself, sponsor yourself if that's what you feel like doing. Which would be, I was going to say, it'd be the same as making a donation to MS. But having said that, why not read a few books and really get something out of it yourself as well?
Absolutely. And, I think sometimes, especially when life is so busy and other things take over, we forget the kind of peace and joy and magic that comes with just sitting down to read a book. And for people getting involved with MS Ireland, and with the MS Readathon, it might push them a little bit more to just take that even 20 minutes, half an hour in the morning or night time just to sit with their book and shut off everything else and have that little bit of peace and quiet and self-care.
Well, indeed, and I think it's a wonderful habit for children to get into as well. To encourage them. The more you can encourage children to read, the better. I believe.
Yeah, absolutely, Marion, and not only from kind of an enjoyment point of view that books give, and it's also to expand their imagination, help with their literacy skills, their reading, their writing. It's so much more than just sitting down and reading the book. It's all the advantages and the benefits that come with encouraging our children to do that.
And I think it's important also to let listeners know who may not realise that, MS is a dreadful disease, and we all know of it, and unfortunately it hits young people a lot. You yourself are living with it for the last 15 years, I see from the press release here.
Yes, I am, Marion. Yeah, so I was diagnosed at 22 with multiple sclerosis. And, there's approximately nearly 10,000 people in Ireland living with MS. And it's a very different disease, Marion, for everybody, and their trajectory and their journey and how they experience it will be different for everybody. No two people living with MS are the same. They may experience some similarities in their journey, but everyone's journey is so unique and so different because MS presents in different ways. I was diagnosed very young, and I'm very fortunate that my GP acted quickly and referred me to the neurology services, and I had started on treatment for my MS within 18 months. Sometimes it can be a lot longer for people because it's difficult to diagnose MS. It can be, there's a multitude of signs and symptoms that sometimes people can associate to other illnesses or other conditions, and we'll just kind of wait and see what happens. But it's really important, MS, that it's prompt and that treatment is given early, and that it's highly effective treatment that's given, so that it ensures that the quality of life for people is good and they can maintain the quality of life that they want as they live with this illness.
Well, it's very interesting that you say that, and I'm very glad that you did say it, because, at one time, getting a diagnosis of MS was basically a death sentence, and there wasn't very much, and this isn't only in the relatively recent past, there wasn't much could be done for you, but so much has been learned, and undoubtedly research is what has brought it on, but so much has been done now that people can live reasonably full lives even though they have the diagnosis.
Oh, absolutely, Marion, and I'm always, I suppose, very proud, and I'm always trying to be, I suppose, testament to that. I'm a lecturer in the University of Galway in general nursing. I'm a nurse by trade. I live a very fulfilled and active and busy life, and kind of MS is just part of that. I live with it. It's part of my journey, and I suppose I'm fortunate in the time and in the generation that I was diagnosed. You go back even 10, 12 years ago, when somebody was diagnosed with MS, if they didn't fall within the criteria of a certain medication and the requirements for it, there was nothing else for them to get, and people deteriorated very quickly and their quality of life wasn't what they wanted. We're now at the stage, because of the likes of MS Ireland and other places that are putting money and time and resources into research, we now have in excess of 20 different disease-modifying therapies that are available to people living with MS, from self-administered injections to IV infusions to chemotherapy treatments. There's so much available that it's a much different scene, and it's a much different situation now for people living with MS, and that's down to research and finance and that, I suppose, backing to try and find a cure for this illness.
Right. So if anybody wants to register themselves as an individual, a group, or their family maybe, or whatever, for the readathon, if they go on to msreadathon.ie, they can follow whatever is there and register. I'd say to anybody else, if a neighbour comes to you, maybe the school children living next door or whatever come to you looking for support, it's a great cause to sponsor, and I would recommend everybody should sponsor it.
Absolutely, Marion, and you just don't know. I did the readathon for years as a child, and little did I know it would come full circle back, that I would need to avail of those supports and services later in life. So you really never know. Nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow or the day after. So I'd really encourage people to support it. MS Ireland are a national organisation, and they need this funding and fundraising to back them and to support those 10,000 people in Ireland living with this illness.
Right, they do, well, indeed, and those 10,000 people do need that help, so the more we can give them, the better. I have to leave it there, Ciara, but thank you very much for joining us and talking about it, and I hope the readathon does better than ever and gets raises a huge amount this year.
Absolutely, and thanks so much, Marion, for having me on and raising awareness on it too. We appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks a million, Marion.